Okay, and we're back finishing off 2 Kings chapter 9. Then King Jehoram reined the chariot horses round and fled, shouting to the king Uzziah, "Treason, Uzziah!" Then Juah drew his bow and shot Jehoram between the shoulders. The arrow pierced his heart, and he sank dead in his chariot. Juah said to Bidkar, his officer, "Throw him into the field of Naboth of Jezreel. Do you remember when you and I were riding along with his father Ahab? The Lord pronounced this message against him. I solemnly swear that I will repay him here on Naboth's property, says the Lord, for the murder of Naboth and his sons that I saw yesterday. So throw him out on Naboth's field, just as the Lord said." When King Uzziah of Judah saw what was happening, he fled along the road to Beth-Hagen. Juah rode after him, shouting, "Shoot him too!" So they shot Uzziah in his chariot at the ascent of Gur near Ibalim. He was able to go on as far as Megiddo, but he died there. His officials took him by chariot to Jerusalem, where they buried him with his ancestors in the city of David. Aza's reign over Judea had begun in the 11th year of King Joram's reign in Israel. The death of Jezebel. When Jezebel, the queen mother, heard that Juah had come to Jezreel, she painted her eyelids and fixed her hair and sat at the window. When Juah entered the gate of the palace, she shouted at him, "Have you come in peace, you murderer? You are just like Zimri, who murdered his master." Juah looked up and saw her at the window and shouted, "Who is on my side?" And 2 or 3 eunuchs looked out at him. "Throw her down," Juah yelled. So they threw her out the window. Some of her blood splattered against the wall and on the horses. Juah trampled her body under his horses' hooves. Then Juah went into the palace and ate and drank. Afterward he said, "Someone go and bury this cursed woman, for she is the daughter of a king." But when they went out to bury her, they found only her skull and feet and her hands. When they returned and told Juah, he stated, "This fulfills the message from the Lord when he spoke about his servant Elijah from Tishbe. At the plot of the land in the Jezreel, the dogs will eat Jezebel's flesh. Her body will be scattered like a dung on the field of Jezreel, so that no one will be able to recognize her." 2 Kings chapter 10. Juah kills Ahab's family. Now Ahab had 70 sons living in the city of Samaria. So Juah wrote a letter and sent copies to Samaria to the officials of the city, to the leaders of the people, and to the guardians of King Ahab's sons. The letter said, "The king's sons are with you, and you have at your disposal chariots, horses, and a fortified city and weapons. As soon as you receive this letter, select the best qualified King Ahab's sons to be your king, and prepare to fight for Ahab's dynasty." But they were paralyzed with fear and said, "Two kings couldn't stand against this man. What can we do?" So the palace and the city administrators, together with other leaders and the guardians of the king's sons, sent this message to Juah: "We are your servants and will do anything you tell us. We will not make anyone king, and do whatever you think is best." Juah responded with the second letter: "You are on my side and you are going to obey me. Bring me the heads of the king's sons. Bring the heads of the king's sons to me at Jezreel about this time tomorrow." Now the 70 sons of the kings were being cared for by the leaders of Samaria, where they had been raised since childhood. When the letter arrived, the leaders killed all 70 of the king's sons. They placed their heads in baskets and presented them to Juah at Jezreel. A messenger went to Juah and said, "They have brought the heads of the king's sons." So Juah ordered, "Pile them into 2 heaps at the entrance of the city gate, and leave them there until morning." In the morning he went out and spoke to the crowd that had gathered around them. "You aren't to blame," he told them. "I am the one who conspired against my master and killed them. But who killed all these? You can be sure that the message of the Lord has spoken concerning Ahab's family will not fail. The Lord declared through his servant Elijah that this would happen." Then Juah killed all of Ahab's relatives living in Jezreel and all his important officials, personal friends, and priests. So Ahab was left without a single survivor. Then Juah set out to Samaria. Along the way, while he was at Beth-Eked of the shepherds, he met some relatives of King Uzziah of Judea. "Who are you?" he asked, and they replied, "We are relatives of King Uzziah. We are going to visit the sons of King Ahab and the queen mother." "Take them alive," Juah shouted to his men, and they captured all 42 of them and killed them at the well of Beth-Eked. None of them escaped. When Jua left there, he met Jehonadab, son of Rechab, who was coming to meet him. After they had greeted each other, Jenna said, "Are you loyal to me as I am to you?" "Yes, I am," Jehonadab replied. "If you are," Jua said, then give me your hand." So Jehonadab put out his hand, and Jua helped him into the chariot. Then Jua said, "Now come with me and see how devoted I am to the Lord." So Jehonadab rode along with him. When Jua arrived at Samaria, he killed everyone who was left there from Ahab's family, just as the Lord had promised through Elijah. Jua kills the priest of Baal. Then Jua called a meeting of all the people of this city and said to them, "Ahab hardly worshipped Baal at all compared to the way I will worship him. Summon all the prophets and worshippers of Baal, and called together all his priests. See to it that every one of them comes, for I am going to offer a great sacrifice to Baal. Any of Baal's worshippers who fail to come will be put to death." But Juah's plan was to destroy all the worshippers of Baal. Then Juah ordered, "Prepare a solemn assembly to worship Baal." So they did. He sent messengers throughout all Israel, summoning those who worshipped Baal. They came and filled the temple of Baal from one end to the other, and Juah instructed the keeper of the wardrobe, "Be sure that every worshipper of Baal wears one of these robes." So robes were given to them. Then Juah went into the temple of Baal with Jehonadab, son of Rechab. Juah said to the worshippers of Baal, "Make sure that only those who worship Baal are here. Don't let anyone in who worships the Lord." So they all were inside the temple to offer sacrifices and burnt offerings. Now Juah had surrounded the building with 80 of his men and had warned them, "If you let anyone escape, you will pay for it with your own life." As soon as Juah had finished sacrificing the burnt offering, he commanded his guards and officers, "Go in and kill all of them. Don't let a single one escape." So they killed them all with their swords, and the guards and the officers dragged their bodies outside. Then Juah's men went into the fortress of the temple of Baal. They dragged out the sacred pillar used in the worship of Baal and destroyed it. They broke down the sacred pillar of Baal and wrecked the temple of Baal, converting it into a public toilet. This is what it is used for to this day. Thus Juah destroyed every trace of Baal worship from Israel. He did not, however, destroy the gold calves at Bethel and Dan, the great sin that Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel to commit. Nonetheless, the Lord said to Juah, "You have done well in following my instructions to destroy the family of Ahab. Because of this, I will cause your descendants to be the kings of Israel down to the 4th generation." But Juah did not obey the law of the Lord, the God of Israel, with all his heart. He refused to turn from the sins of adultery that Jeroboam had led Israel to commit. The death of Juah. And about that time, the Lord began to reduce the size of Israel's territory. King Hazael conquered several sections of the country east of the Jordan River, including all of Gilead, Gad, Reuben, and Manasseh. He conquered the area from the town of Aroer by the Arnon Gorge to as far north as Gilead and Bashan. The rest of the events in Juah's reign and all his deeds and accomplishments are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. When Juah died, he was buried with his ancestors in Samaria. Then his son Joahaz became the next king. In all, Juah reigned over Israel from Samaria for 28 years. Okay, and I'll be back later with chapter 11.